Chapter 1. From Rich Teenager to Penniless Slave. Patrick was born around the end of the 4th century in a village called Banaventa Taberniae, near the western coast of what was known as Britain, which included most of today's England and Wales. Today, there is no village by that name, and no one has been able to figure out where it was. By the time of Patrick's birth, Britain had been part of the Roman Empire for over 300 years, and its people had adopted many Roman customs. A few enjoyed the luxuries of the Roman lifestyle, comfortable villas, warm bathing facilities, similar to today's spas, and a large variety of goods from all over the known world. As a decurion, or city officer in the Roman government, Patrick's father, Calpurnius, enjoyed some of the benefits of this lifestyle, although his country house was probably much smaller than some of the Roman villas. His position also gave him a privileged place in society. Calpurnius named his son Patricius, which means noble. In today's English-speaking world, Patricius is known as Patrick. Trading with Rome and other nations made it possible for the people in Britain to hear about Jesus and how he lived and died to save sinners. By the time Patrick was born, there were already many churches in Britain. Calpurnius was a diaconum, similar to today's deacon, in the local church, probably assisting his father, Potitus, who was a presbyter, what today we would call a priest or pastor. Despite being brought up a Christian, Patrick didn't seem interested in learning about God or obeying him. "I did not know the true God," he confessed later. Like most children from well-to-do families, Patrick learned the basic school subjects at home, probably with a tutor. He spoke the local language, but learned to read and write Latin, the language of the Roman Empire. Since Calpurnius had slaves who took care of all the chores, Patrick had time to play with friends and run in the fields around his country home. In those days, people thought it was normal to have slaves. They thought it had always been that way. These slaves didn't belong to one race. Some were people who'd been captured in war. Some had sold themselves to be slaves because they couldn't pay their debts. Others were kidnapped by slave traders and taken far from their homes. Accustomed to having people work for him, Patrick couldn't have imagined that he would one day learn by experience how it felt to be a slave. His life changed drastically when he was 16, and a band of slave traders attacked his home, killing some of his father's slaves and dragging away Patrick and a few others. Then, after loading their captives in a boat, the traders sailed across the Irish Sea until they reached the coast of Ireland, the large island west of Britain. From there, they took their captives to places where they could be sold. Most likely they rode horses, while their captives, tied with ropes or chains, walked behind them. The man who bought Patrick took him to his home and placed him in charge of his sheep. Patrick's parents had no way of knowing where their son was. Even today, no one knows for sure where Patrick lived. Later, he mentioned a place called the Forest of Foclert, near the western coast of Ireland, but now there is no forest known by this name. A 7th century author suggested it was in a region called County Mayo, which in many ways fits Patrick's description. To a citizen of Roman Britain, Ireland, which had never been conquered by the Romans, seemed like a rough country, far away from civilization. Its people were considered barbarians or uncivilized. Growing up, Patrick probably heard stories of cruel and violent Irish people, which must have made him especially afraid. As a shepherd, Patrick would probably take the sheep out in the morning, protect them from wolves and other predators during the day, make sure they didn't go astray, and bring them back home at night. He might have sheared the sheep once a year. He had to be particularly careful because a slave who lost a sheep would be punished harshly. Most of the time, watching sheep was a lonely job, so it gave Patrick time to think.